Theodore Roosevelt Jr. was born in October of 1858. Better known as Teddy, he would end up being the 26th President of the United States. Best known as a politician, Mr. Roosevelt was also a statesman, a soldier, a conservationist, a naturalist, a historian, a writer, and an avid reader. He got to be known as the picture of masculinity, but he was also a very smart individual. Things didn't start off very easy for Teddy though. He was a very sickly young child suffering from debilitating asthma. He overcame these ailments by pushing himself physically as a young man. On a family camping trip as a 6-year-old boy, Teddy was basically beaten up by a couple of older boys. This stuck with him. He never wanted it to happen again, so he took up boxing. Judging from this picture, Teddy didn't have any problems from this point on. This video was taken on October 11th of 1910, and it would mark the first time in history that a US president would take to the skies. The scene is at Kinloch Field in St. Louis, Missouri. More than 10,000 people had showed up to see the president and also to see a mini air show by aviator Archie Hoxsey, who was flying a Wright brothers built airplane. Keep in mind, the first manned flight of an airplane had only taken place 7 years earlier. This was the infancy of aviation. It's hard to know who asked or how it came up, but President Roosevelt was offered a ride in the airplane, to which he initially declined. I think any rational person would have probably said, "No thanks, look at that thing." Not Teddy though. This is a man that kept a badger for a pet at the White House. This is a man who rides on moose. Speaking of moose, he was actually shot before a speech. On October 14th of 1912, President Roosevelt was slated to give a speech in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Without going into too much detail, there was an assassination attempt. Teddy was shot, yet he still gave the speech. During this speech, Teddy is quoted as saying, "Fortunately, I had my manuscript. You see, I was going to make a long speech, and there's the bullet. There's where the bullet went through. It probably saved me from going into my heart. The bullet is in me now, so I cannot make a very long speech, but I will try my best." This guy had a bullet lodged in him and he still gave a speech. Can you believe that? He ended the speech by saying, and I quote, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." Knowing now what we know about Teddy, there was no way he was going to back down from flying on this thing. Not in front of all those people. How about this guy, by the way, that just keeps screaming at everybody with that megaphone? I wonder what he was saying. So this looks like the point when Teddy's actually asked if he wants to go on the airplane or not. Again, from what we read, he initially says no thanks, but then he thinks about it. Maybe it was this guy's little smirk that pushed him over the edge, and the coat comes off. "Let me at it," he says. Now everybody's looking around like, oh damn, he's actually going to do it. Archie says, "Come on over here, it's perfectly safe as you can see." "Right this way, Mr. President. Look at those chairs, looks like he took them out of his wife's dining room." Now in later interviews, Hoxsey admits he was really nervous about this whole situation. He was quoted as saying, "I was very careful. I said to myself, if anything happens to him, I'll never be able to square myself with the American people. I was mighty glad when we landed. I never felt a greater responsibility in my life." Alright, Mr. President, you're sitting right here. You just gotta climb through these rigging wires, and you're gonna be sitting here right by this unprotected chain and propeller. You could sort of see Teddy's face at this point like, damn man, what did you get yourself into? I think he's having regrets. I mean, who wouldn't? Look who shows up again with his bullhorn. A guy comes in and says, "Sir, do you mind we're trying to film this?" So what does he do? He just screams at him too. I think if you listen really carefully, I might be able to extract some sound out of this old film and see what he's actually saying. Here we go.
What do you guys think you're doing? Playing hippity hop at the barber shop? Now snap into it and march like soldiers, and that goes for you too. How about face?
I won't do it. He don't pay my salary. It's a guy with a beard.
Anyway, I hope everybody liked that little Stooges reference. Back to Teddy. Archie's getting him all situated and ready to go, and this guy comes up and says, "Any last words, Mr. President?" So there's no film footage of the takeoff that I know of, but here they come in the distance, and Archie takes him on a freaking roller coaster ride. Look at this. Supposedly, during the flight, which only lasted a few minutes, he tried waving at the crowd and almost fell out of the airplane. Here he is again, acting like he's going to nose it right into the ground. I think he's just trying to give the president his money's worth. The last time I saw flying like that, these guys were flying the airplane. Ultimately, they come in for a butter landing, everything's good, everyone's safe. Teddy gets off proud as a peacock. Teddy again shows everybody that he's fearless. There's handshakes and smiles all around. Off goes Teddy in his motorcade, waving his hat, the man of the hour. No doubtedly looking for a stiff drink. So again, Teddy Roosevelt, the first US president to fly in an airplane. I hope everybody enjoyed this short video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. There will be more on the way. Thank you so much again for watching.